order, just like your bookshelf behind you, Marlene and Hendrik. It's so much order. I mean, such order, such pristine order we create to give us a sense of order, because order is so gratifying. And order is so gratifying because there's so much disorder. Do you understand? The minute you leave your place, the minute you go out the door, I'm speaking to each and every one of you, the minute you go out to the door, the minute you in fact go out of this little space you happen to be confined in, you suddenly meet disorder. And then further than that, greater disorder. And then further than that, protests on every street. And then further than that, chaos that you can't even comprehend. How did they get that idea? Why did they get that idea? What in the world are they yelling about and screaming about? And so forth and so on. Can you imagine if that were right there in your little place? Can you imagine if it had control over the little space you've created to provide yourself with order, some sense of controllability, some sense of ownership? Can you imagine how devastating that would be? So we're here to begin a new path. And I say it again to you, a blank piece of paper and beginner's mind. Now hear me, I want you to write down these things I repeat to you. I want you to write them down, not so they become your logos, your reason for being, but so they become tools for you. And as they become tools for you, you get to utilize them by going deeper into them. What do I mean by a blank piece of paper and beginner's mind? Why is a blank piece of paper and beginner's mind so critical? It's because all creators begin there. To the degree we are not beginning as a beginner, to the degree we are not beginning with a blank piece of paper, we're already stuffed into a corner. We're already stuffed into a corner of a puzzle that's already been populated with convictions, assumptions, assertions that effectively limit our state of being. Do you understand, Edgar, when I say limit our state of being? Every single assumption we start with here limits our state of being. Every idea you bring to the table here limits your state of being, which means it limits your state of opportunity. And it limits your state of opportunity to do what? To create a great growing enterprise. And hear me, at this very beginning, in every one of your states of being, to create a great growing enterprise was not the reason necessarily that you joined us here at Radical You. It's to get your house in order. Most people who start Radical You simply want to get on with it. They want to experience success. They want to make some money. They want to make some money. They want to make it work. They want to get their sales done appropriately. They want to attract more leads to your door. They want to do all the things, the particles of things that every single one of us depend upon simply to pay the rent, to do the simple stuff every human being's got to do. Unfortunately, what I'm saying to you is, to the degree we attempt to do that, we will incapacitate you from doing what in fact you're really here to do. And so we can join the crowd and provide you with instant solutions that aren't really solutions at all. They're simply methods to produce a practical outcome that avoids looking at the impracticality of every practical outcome every single person has pursued. I want you to imagine that the future is a job at McDonald's. I want you to imagine that your future is a job at McDonald's. Now that's a practical outcome. Would you like the rest of your life to be shaped by that practical outcome? Do you know that the vast majority of students in the universities in America today have bought an outcome that is prohibiting them from gaining their sense of self that is so sorely lacking? It's because it's been built in a ridiculous fashion to produce a predictable outcome that is, in a ridiculous fashion, exactly the opposite of what our educational system was intended to do at the very, very beginning. At the very, very beginning, its intent was to create more thoughtful, more philosophical, more intelligent, more rational, more socially invested human beings who could grow beyond the ordinary. Radical You is about growing beyond the ordinary. So I'm not going to go on and on and on, because going on and on and on is just going on and on and on. Hello, Chris Cray. How are you? Is it Croy? Croy? Thank you. And is that Mrs. Croy? Or, okay. And I don't see Mrs. Croy's name, so I'm saying hi. Denver, I see you again. You got your camera in a very weird spot, Denver. It's sort of looking up from the ground. There you go. There you go, Denver. Now that's better. Now at least it's like I'm looking at you straight on, as opposed to up through your groin. The last thing I want to do is to look at you, Denver, up through your groin. You get it? Hello, Lofton. How are you? With all those things behind you, your inventory. I presume that's your inventory. It's got to be somebody's inventory. Yeah, I can't hear you, so don't even try to talk. So thank you. So guys, you're here to ask me questions. And I believe we have one question. My business is 3 years old and growing. The system needs to get better in order to get a simplified and sustainable prototype. However, the way we want to do it means a 70% change of the operational system. What could you advise? Well, you haven't identified yourself by name, so I'll just simply say you. Do the work. Your business is 3 years old and growing. So let me say that your business is what I call old code. It's what you walked in the door with. I'm not interested in what you walked in the door with, nor am I suggesting should you be interested with what you walked in the door with, because I'll guarantee you, you didn't do what you're about to do at Radical You in the business you've got. So I'm suggesting, as a strategy, again to the questioner, as a strategy, we have a two-field view. Old co on the left, new co on the right. The strategy for old co, that's the company you've got, if you've got a company, is called sustainability. And so you go to work on old co to make it sustainable. And what is sustainability then? In the case of old co, it's the three-legged stool of lead generation, lead conversion, client fulfillment. The financial acumen through which that occurs, and the systemic regularity through which it operates. And so in every single case, whether it be new co or old co, we're going to work on our company. And in this particular case, the first 4 steps is to discover our dream, our vision, our purpose, our mission. I'm suggesting you don't want to do that with old co, because you're going to take up a lot of time filling up stupid space. I think all we want to do with old co is to get it to work better. And that means lead generation, lead conversion, client fulfillment, generating active leads, converting those active leads into active customers, and converting those active customers into actively paying clients. You got that? That's old co. Make it sustainable. That means you build your little franchise prototype, your practice, in such a means that you can sustain it. But you can sustain it because it's a system. It's an operating system. Lead generation, lead conversion, client fulfillment. The 3-legged stool of your operating system of what I'm calling your franchise prototype for old co. Now, why do you create sustainability? Because once you accomplish that with old co, and as you accomplish that with old co, you can replicate yourself by putting other people in to operate your lead generation system, your lead conversion system, your client fulfillment system. You suddenly can replace yourself with others who then take on that responsibility. You got me? That's the old co strategy. Now understand, it also is the new co strategy. But with the new co strategy, we're beginning at the beginning with a blank piece of paper in beginner's mind. You understand, old co is long been and long gone from a blank piece of paper. Old co is just a bunch of conclusions that have happened happenstance, the way they've happened. By you doing this, you doing that, you doing the other thing, you learning this, you learning that. This whole disorienting, ridiculous hodgepodge of stuff that you've been pursuing, being offered by everyone. And then everybody offers, and then you find somebody got a better offer, and then you go to the guy with a better offer, and then you're working on what you did with the worst offer, and now you got to change the worst offer into the product of the better offer, and then you do that, and then you find a better offer, and you change the second offer to the third offer, and then the fourth offer, then the fifth offer, and you keep on doing that, and you're on the internet monkey wheel. What a tragedy the internet has literally created, because the internet has become fool's gold. Unfortunately, you end up being the fool, and they end up with your gold. You got what I'm saying? Now, some of you might be the internet objectifiers. Some of you might see the internet as that great glowing opportunity. The internet is simply a tool, ladies and gentlemen. It isn't a destination. The internet is simply a tool. It isn't a destination. The destination lives in the heart and mind of the people who you're going to transform. And you're going to transform them because in some form, shape, some wisdom that you're going to provide, you're going to give them access to a better part of themselves than they've ever had before. You understand, that's our objective here. To give you access to a better part of yourselves than you've ever had access to before, in a better way than you've ever had access to it before. Not by telling you what to do, not by telling you what to do at all, but by giving you the process through which to discover what to do, so that each and every single one of you will walk out of our school, this same school, with your own personal conclusion that is built upon the essential premises that every great growing company demands. I have a dream, I have a vision, I have a purpose, I've got a mission. I've got a job, I've got a practice, I've got a business, I've got an enterprise. I'm not clear about what my dream is yet. And if you're not clear what your dream is yet, don't go on to your vision. Because you understand the lack of clarity about your dream, the lack of substance of your dream will create an imperfect vision intended to become the means through which the imperfect dream, the dissatisfying dream, will hopefully become realized. It will not become realized. It becomes realized inside you. Do you understand what I'm saying when I say it will become realized inside you? Just like it became realized inside of Walt Disney, just like it became realized inside of Steve Jobs, just like it became realized. Do you understand what I mean by that? It has to come from you. When people call me the world's #1 small business guru, it simply means I'm the world's #1 small business teacher of creators, of you. And the only reason I am is because I tell the truth. And the only reason I tell the truth is because I've practiced the truth, to discover the truth. In the process of making every mistake you will make on the path to the truth, discovering the incredible blessing that is available to every single one of us as we go through that discovery process, realizing, Joanne, we're simply human. And the minute we come face to face with our own humanity, have any of you done that yet? Do you know what I'm talking about? The minute we come face to face with our own humanity, something startling takes place. And so the 77% change of the operational system, whatever your name is, essentially not even close to the case. What I'm suggesting is it doesn't have to be that. Think left hand, right hand, think sustainability, think growth, and see them as completely separate objectives in the process of doing what you're setting out to do. Okay, Radical Suit question. I see two forces in Radical You that may bump into each other. Only two? My goodness. On one hand, there is the system, the idea that everything is already thought of. Everything is contained in the operating manuals. This consistency part of the business offering to the market. On the other hand, there's the turbulence of the environment, that ongoing change, the new competitor, or that new product or service. How does that practice deal with these disruptive conditions in the marketplace? And how do I successfully compete with these new endeavors? It's a great question. You understand that McDonald's deals with the same problem and has from the very beginning. I don't have the date Ray Kroc launched his franchise prototype. I should have. I did have. It's there in my book. I absolutely don't remember what the date. It was a long freaking time ago. Do you understand? It was a long freaking time ago. But understand, McDonald's is the most successful business format franchise in the world. And it was started out all those years ago selling the most ordinary food on the planet and selling it in the most systematic process ever invented to do it. And everything's changed in the marketplace, other than people still eat. I mean, you get that? People still eat. And for some reason, McDonald's has sustained its position in the marketplace, if not even grown it more significantly, with over 37,000 some odd stores. Astonishing. So everything you've said is true and everything you said is untrue. Effectively, it's how well you do this work at the core operating system of your company. Visually, emotionally, functionally, financially. Please write those down again. Visually, emotionally, functionally, financially. Because the company you're going to invent is a visual thing. That's the very first thing that's true about it. People need to see it. And it's not just seeing the words. They need to see it. Can you see my hat? David, can you see my hat? Of course you can see my hat. Steve, can you see my hat? Of course you can see my hat. Uday, can you see my hat? Of course you can see my hat. Carlos, can you see my hat? Of course you can see my hat. Why this hat? Doesn't matter why this hat. It happens to be the hat. And everybody who thinks Michael E Gerber sees the hat. It's like it grew out of my head. It's like I go to bed with it every night. It's like I wake up and go in the shower with it every morning. It's like the thought of Michael E Gerber without that hat is inconceivable. Just like the thought of McDonald's without the golden arches is inconceivable. Now, what do the golden arches speak about? Other than heaven. Do you understand? Other than the highest good. It's the golden arches, ladies and gentlemen. It's the freaking golden arches. Do you understand what I'm saying? Visual, emotional, functional, financial. That's what you're going to work on. That's what every single one of you are setting out to do. That's not a mystery because I've already said it in the Eightfold Path. My dream is the great result I intend to produce. In our case, to transform the state of small business worldwide. Our vision is the form our business is going to take. And I say to invent the McDonald's of small business consulting services. Now you say, well, what is the McDonald's of small business consulting services? Well, it's the McDonald's of small business consulting services. First of all, it's a system. Second of all, it's a turnkey system. Third of all, it's the least expensive system available in the marketplace. Fourth of all, it's demographically applicable to every single person who wishes to create a small business anywhere in the world. All you need to do is look at McDonald's, look at McDonald's, look at McDonald's. So what is our vision? You follow me? You follow me? What is your vision? What is your purpose? What is our purpose? Our purpose is that every small business owner who's attracted to our paradigm, our thought model, the way in which we speak, the way in which we relate, the way in which we design, build, launch, and grow, every single one of you who's attracted to that can be as successful as a McDonald's franchisee or as successful as a McDonald's itself. There's no reason you can't launch your franchise prototype exactly the way Ray Kroc did. Get the little sucker right. Get the little sucker right. Get the little sucker right. Get that little sucker turnkeyed right so that it can be replicated again and again and again and again and again, and then replicated the first time. The first time, only the first time, to test its validity, to test its validity, to test its authenticity, to test its manageability, to test its spontaneity, its consumerability, and so forth and so forth. Are you hearing me? Do you get what I'm saying? You understand? Doesn't matter what kind of business it is, doesn't matter what you're selling, doesn't matter what kind of services you sell or products you sell, doesn't matter at all. Get the idea of it. You suddenly understand what the vision is, what the purpose is, and then, of course, what the mission is. And the mission, of course, is what? To invent the system underlying it all, which is what we set out to do at the Michael Thomas Corporation, starting out in 1977 with our dream, our vision, our purpose, and our mission in place. There's a story at the heart of it all. I wrote that story later in my first book called The E-Myth. And then I rewrote that story in this book, which I asked you all to read, called The E-Myth Revisited. And it says why most small businesses don't work and what to do about it. And it tells you why your business doesn't work, why your business never will work unless you do it the way I'm talking about, which is the way Ray Kroc did, which is the way every brilliant entrepreneur must do in order for their company to prosper and grow. And I don't care whether you want it to be worldwide. I don't care whether you want it to be just a little company in your immediate market. You got to build it as though it's going to be worldwide. You've got to design it as though it's going to be in 100,000 places. You can design it with growth in mind, because unless and until you grow it with growth in mind, you'll never be able to manage it, let alone lead it. Nor will it ever capture your passion once you've inhibited it to simply work as a little place, in a little place, doing a little thing, and just getting by. Just getting by isn't what creators do. Do you hear me? Just getting by isn't what creators do. It's what technicians do. Doing it. Busy, 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 busy. Dumb stuff until the end of time. It's a tragedy. It's the tragedy at the heart that inspired us to do what we set out to do. And that's why what we set out to do is told in a story. Because until you read the story of why we did what we set out to do, how we were inspired to do what we set out to do, how other great entrepreneurs were inspired to do what they set out to do, you don't have a platform upon which to build what it is that you're going to set out to do. And what has to be in place here, Charles, I can see you there, what has to be in place here is the passion. Do you understand the passion? And hear me, I don't care how old you are. And I don't care how young you are. That passion is absolutely critical. Because the passion is going to carry you through. When every single other element that doesn't work in the process beleaguers you, your passion is going to make the difference to see you through. Visually, emotionally, functionally, financially. And what you don't know how to do, you're going to learn how to do. And what you don't learn how to do, you're going to fix and correct as you do it better the next time and the next time and the next time. And as you attract great thinkers to you. Forget about the internet. The internet is simply a tool. The internet is not the objective. Unless the internet is your product. And if the internet is your product, it still isn't your objective. It's simply a tool. You follow me? Okay. So how does that practice deal with these disruptive conditions in the marketplace, and how do I successfully compete with these new endeavors? By following the process. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. The worst way in the world is to do it the way everybody is called to do it. Do this and then do that and then do the other and then do the other, and completely start out on a discombobulated path of following anything and everything simply because it turns you on. Follow me? That is the end game for everyone who fails in business. Question: would you view a job, in quotes, or other income such as retirement funds to be comparable to old co in the sense that life, in a sense, is a company and must have sustainable systems, budgets, etc.? I'm looking at this as a process, so it gives me the mental space to pursue systematically through Radical You my business vision. Any comments to how you see this from this situation? Yeah, it's a great question. Let me try to respond to it in as great a way as the question is begging. That effectively what you're really raising the question about is, what is all this about? Now, when I say all this about, I'm not talking about the Radical You process. I'm talking about what's life all about. And so life is all about what I describe as a company of one. And I'm suggesting in the story that I've shared with you that every human being on the planet is a company of one. Understand, not that they're in business, but they are in business. Every single one of us are in business. Every single one of us require an economic capability to move us through our life toward a better objective. And that better objective isn't a fixed point. That better objective is a moving point. And so we're not saying, in fact, that it's a stagnant or static objective. It's a moving objective. Because as each of you move forward on this paradigm, as each and every one of you move forward in this process that we're talking about, as each and every one of you move forward with your dream, your vision, your purpose, your mission, your job, your practice, your business, your enterprise, every single one of you are altered by the fact of it. Because each and every one of you are participating actively within it and about it and upon it. And in the process of that, discovering a new way of being that you've never seen before. When Hendrik and Marlene, is it Marlene? Just shake your head. Or Marlin? Is it Marlene? Is it Marlene? Is that close? Okay. When we talked about the process of speaking to each other, and you began that process earnestly, and you took it on as students, because what do I know? You just simply said, okay, well, let's try that. It's effectively what you did. Well, that's interesting. Let's try that. So what did Michael say? How to do that? And then you actually looked at what I said about how to do that. I wasn't there. I wasn't in the conversation with you. I'm just presuming that's the case, because what I saw as you went through that is that something shifted between you. Now, that shift isn't a permanent shift. And you might have seen that as well. In fact, that shift most often isn't a permanent shift. Oh my goodness, we just learned something staggeringly important. We have to do this every 3 days. But we don't do this every 3 days, or we do. And then we learn something new. Why did we forget? Or why was it different the second time than it was the first? Are you following what I'm saying here, Hendrik and Marlene? And I know it's striking a chord in you because I can see it in your faces. So you understand this is an enriching process. But it's not an enriching process of, oh my gosh, we got to meet with Michael again. It's an enriching process. Oh my God, I've got to reach or meet with Marlene again, with Hendrik again. I've got to get a taste of this so that I can best understand this. And so it can best expand our view of each other in the process of coming alive. So this process, this enriching process, do you hear me that I'm speaking to Marlene and Hendrik about? I'm speaking to every single one of you about. Now, it's quite beautiful that the two of them are sitting there, shoulder to shoulder, looking at me. And I know that, Uday, there's somebody in your life who's not here by your shoulder looking at me, unless it's the doorknob. And I know, David, the very same thing is true of you. Or there may not be somebody sitting there by your shoulder that you're having a relationship with. And Jake and Nuala, I said it quickly, hoping to get over the mispronunciation, but you get my point. My point is, to the degree this is a living process, then something that comes out of it alters the one who's experiencing that process, called you, to the degree that the way you experience it tomorrow will be different than the way you experience it today. And so time is a very significant piece of this. And you've got to be in it for keeps. You understand, you're not going to get a new life, Marlene. You're not going to get a new husband, Marlene. You're not going to get a new wife, Hendrik, though you might. What I'm saying is, that's the answer that many people have come to. But I've been having this conversation with a guy who's been married to the same woman for 30 years. 30 years. Get this, 13 children. Now hear this, 13 children, 30 years. And they have breakfast every morning together, all of them. Have you ever heard of anything like that in your life? And they have breakfast every morning? And in breakfast, they speak about scripture. Now hear me. I don't know whether this guy's a Jew, a Mormon, a capitalist, a Protestant. I don't care. What I do know is every day he meets for breakfast at the start of day with his 13 children. Now, I haven't met all those 13 kids, but he's introduced me to a handful of them on Zoom. And I swear it's like he hired a modeling agency. I've accused him of setting this up so they're not really his kids. They're much too beautiful, consistently beautiful, and they love him too much. So understand, it may be a setup. But what I'm saying, it's certainly something I've rarely ever seen. Now, right, I'm 84. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been married 4 times. You've met my 4th and final wife. I say my final wife or shoot me. You've met my fourth and final wife, Luz Delia. You've seen her. She's not here tonight. I say this to you because this gentleman who's been married 30 years knows something I don't. And so the deep, deep question that resides within me at 84 is, what is it this guy knows that I don't? You follow me? I know it's not he knows how to keep a wife. I know it's not that. I know intimately inside myself, it's not because he knows how to keep. You can't trick a woman for 30 years. Ain't no way in hell you can do that. You all know that, don't you? I mean, you all know, ain't no way you're going to pull this over a woman's eyes for 30 years and 13 kids. Ain't no way you're going to do that. Women are smarter than men anyway, and certainly more intuitively accurate than men anyway. No way in the world he's going to pull the wool over this woman's eyes for 30 freaking years. So there's something else about it. Now, when I meet the guy, I'm not meeting somebody who just blows me away. I mean, because he's so adorable, so clever, so brilliant, I mean, it isn't that. So there's something else to it. Well, that something else is something worth understanding. Now, understanding, because it has as much to do with my present wife as it did with every one of the wives who preceded her. And it wasn't about them. It was about me. Because in fact, I'm not going to be able to learn what, in fact, created 3 unhappy marriages by looking at the women I was married to. I chose those women. They chose me. The only path of liberation is to discover what's missing in me that obviously isn't missing in him. You follow what I'm saying? Well, that's worth learning. That's worth studying. That's worth pursuing, which is what we're doing. And so I say at 84, something that you at 52 or 63 or Jake, I don't know, what are you, 14? However old or young you are, there's something here for every single one of us. And the something that's here for every single one of us has nothing to do with what you paid to get in the door. We won't even talk about that. What you're here to do is to discover you, the process we've invented through which you can do that. And this guy who's been married 30 years and has 13 children, and his blessed wife smiles at him as though they just got married. And I know she's not that good an actress. I just know it. I just know it. There's something here to be learned. And that's what I trust we're going to do. As my company grows, I've had to deal with some team members not performing at the same level I have for many years. How do I best handle the lower performance as we continue to grow? Well, the lower performance has to do with visual, emotional, functional, financial. The lower performance has to do with each of the 4 categories of organization that are absolutely critical to the life's blood of your company, to the life's blood of your relationship with your people. The relationship with your people started with a story. So the very first thing you need to do is to go back to the beginning of your company, which is going to suggest that the very beginning of your company started with a story you told to the people you brought aboard as they started to work with you, for you, to do what they were intended to do. And somehow you left out all of the critical pieces that were essential to that story. Now, when I say essential to that story for each and every one of those people. Now, each and every one of those people has an economic reality, because they are an economic reality, every single one of them. As a social reality, because they are a social reality, each and every. I'm speaking to all of you. You understand the questions being asked by the gentleman or lady who's asked the question, but essentially when I answer it, I'm answering it for each of you. So every question is a modality through which you can be asking yourself the same question, even before you get to the point where this individual is, where your people aren't performing regularly, consistently, harmoniously, in a way that is replicating a particular mindset that must be extant within the company that is growing. Something's missing in this picture. What's missing in this picture? That's the question. That's the question he's asking. That's the question she's asking. That's the question every single one of you must write down and put right over here on your modem. What's missing in this picture? What's missing in this picture? Because that's the question you're asking about everything you do and the way that you do it and the results it's producing and the joy or the dissatisfaction that's emanating from it. It's causing you to know deep in your heart, something's missing in this picture. Something's missing in this picture. Visually, emotionally, functionally, financially. So we have to start from the very beginning. And that's why I say we start with the story. And so understand that this company grows from where? From the beginning. The beginning is what? A company of one. You remember when you're a company, Joanne? Do you have a company, Joanne? Yep, I have a company, and it started. And it started one day. And that day, when it started, was Joanne. I'm going to call it a company of one. And Joanne started it with an idea. That idea was either a product of something you were already doing as an employee of somebody else. It was a product of something that somebody sold you and you said, wow, that's neat. I can do that. And you decided to go into business doing that instead. And you're nodding, yes, that's what happened. There are only so many options. Do you understand? But there is only the truth of it was a company of one. I started it. I opened the door, and it may have been in my kitchen. Just like Dr. Ivan Meisner at BNI. You know BNI? Yep, BNI. Everybody know BNI? Yeah, BNI started with two people. Look up BNI, Marlene and Hendrick. It's a great story. Dr. Ivan Meisner. Dr. Ivan Meisner. The doctor is a PhD. Meisner. Dr. Meisner started his company in his kitchen. It grew to him and two people. And then he read the E-Myth Revisited. And when he read the E-Myth Revisited, everything changed. And Dr. Ivan Meisner took the idea that every company is a franchise, literally. And he set out then to franchise BNI, starting out with two people in his kitchen. And it's now worldwide. It's now the largest company of its kind on the planet. An immense success story. E-Myth to a T. A franchise prototype. How did I start? That's what I'm saying to Joanne. How did I start? Was that your husband, Joanne? Or was that your boyfriend? How did I start? There he is. How did I start? How did I start? How did I start? Let's go back to the beginning. How did I start? You go back to the beginning of Oldco and you'll suddenly discover how you started. You begin to say what's missing in this picture. You begin to see what in fact is missing in this picture, and you begin to organize it into lead generation, lead conversion, client fulfillment with a specific objective in mind. Not to grow it, but to make it sustainable. Until you build that sustainability into Oldco, you're not liberated sufficiently to create Newco. You follow me? The tragedy is to try to turn Oldco into Newco. That's always the tragedy. To turn Oldco into Newco. You can't. Or let me put it this way, it is really hard. This way, I call TWO, capital TWO, capital CO. TWO is the strategy we're advising everyone to pursue. Okay, I often find myself in the technician mindset, and I'm a company of one. When I have work to do, I stop working on the business and work in the business. No kidding. What's the best practical step I can implement right now? Stop doing that. Stop doing that. I'm giving you the strategy I just did. It's called TWO. What you're doing right now in Oldco, what you're doing right now in your company of one is Oldco. It's not Newco, even though it may be in your mind Newco. Reg, I see you there. I want to thank you very, very much for your incredible letter that you say Jen Harris wrote for you to me. I honor both of you. I just wanted to hear it. Follow the process. Follow the process, guys. Follow the process. Follow the process. Follow the process. I'm saying it to you, saying it to you, saying it to you, saying it to you. And every time you find yourself going off of the process because you've become impatient, stop and start over again. Stop. The minute you find yourself becoming impatient, you're not doing this, you're not getting that, you're not getting this, you're not feeling that, etc. Stop and start all over again. Exactly where you were, the process, step in the process you were in, because you're doing the right thing for the right reason, even though you may not be doing it the right way. You get that? I want you to raise your hands in testimonial that you got that. And please, nobody give me the sign. You either get that or you lose it. You understand? I already know how this works. We've been doing this for 43 years. I already know how this works. I already know all the mistakes you're going to make. And I can't stop you from making them. But what I can hopefully do is to get you to buy into the process. Because in buying into the process, you're ultimately going to get to the right point. It's going to teach you what you need to learn by doing it. You talk about Oldco and Newco. I own a business that's fairly successful and I want to grow it. Do you suggest that I start from scratch? Can I grow what I already built? Hear me. You're not listening. There is no alternative to what I'm saying other than just do it. So when I say TWO, I'm not suggesting TWO because your Oldco isn't successful. I'm suggesting TWO because you can't grow old co without having to fix it. And you're going to be spending all of your time trying to fix it without breaking it. And that's absolutely the wrong way to go about the process, because you're focusing on sustaining it despite what doesn't work in it. And the resistance to letting go is so horrendous that it takes all the energy you've got to break through it. And that's why I'm saying old co, new co. Because if you built old co to make it sustainable, then you can stop expending all of the energy you're going to unfortunately spend upon it trying to get it right, and go to work on new co much more quickly, come to the conclusion of why old co isn't doing what you hoped it would do, because it isn't doing what's absolutely critical that must be done of any company if it's to grow exponentially. You've got to grow from a technician to a manager to an entrepreneur. You have to grow beyond an entrepreneur. As this thing emerges, and all of the different mindsets of each are going to, in fact, impact what you do and how you do it continuously. So we're not just talking about growing a company, we're talking about growing